Now, for my Kenyans, y'all don't come for me, but nyama choma is not on the list. I don't have no nyama choma options on this list. Welcome to BLAXIT to Africa. I'm Tadre Delora Monye, a California native living my best life in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for coming along for the ride. I hope that you are informed, entertained, and inspired to BLAXIT to Africa. Ooh-wee. First of all, y'all, the wigs is back. The wigs is back. It's holiday season. I don't know where my barber is. He must be enjoying somewhere, and I am in need of a cut, seriously, so I had to bring the wigs back out. Get into it. This episode is about the 10 best restaurants in Nairobi. This is a difficult one because there are so many and they're so diverse, varied in every way that you can imagine. And there's so much more beyond these 10 that I'm listing, and there's so much more beyond the foodie scene than Nairobi. However, it's a list, so we had to whittle it down. Now, some of you might be asking, like, okay, well, who are you to determine the best restaurants in Nairobi? Have you been everywhere? I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like I've been everywhere, but I've been a lot of places. Ooh. I'm just remembering. I need to add somebody to the list. Bonus. I need to add a bonus to the list. All right, I'm going to get to that. Now, just to give you a little background about who I am in terms of food. I am a foodie, a self-proclaimed foodie. Some of y'all just like to eat food. And when I get restaurant advice or recs from y'all, 9 times out of 10, I'm disappointed. There's nothing wrong with being somebody that likes food. I like food. But to be like, I like food when you're really not a foodie is like, I don't know about that. Okay, so what qualifies me to be a foodie? Let's just start with where I'm from. I am from Los Angeles, California, which is a very international city. So beyond having a palate that has been exposed at a very early age to multiple cuisines across the globe, I also grew up around people who had very different backgrounds from my own, primarily Asian, South Pacific, and Latin. And I was in and out of these households. They shared food with me. And so at a very early age, like my palate was very exposed. Beyond that, I've lived on quite a few different continents where I've been able to enjoy in local cuisines, domestic cuisines from various regions within that continent, within a particular country. I also have a background working within the restaurant industry as a hostess, okay? And one of the things that I learned very quickly is that being a hostess extends far beyond looking cute and being a benevolent gatekeeper. I learned the hard way that I had to be responsible, beholden to the owners of a restaurant, the chef, the manager, of course, the clients, and also the servers. It was a lot to manage. And the things that I learned the most from that experience is really the business behind a restaurant. And I worked at the time, they were the 2 hottest restaurants in Washington, D.C., Marvin, and also Coco Sala. One of the things that I really appreciated about working at Coco Sala was that whenever there was a menu change, the entire staff had to come in and do a tasting and give feedback. That's one of the things that I know is missing from the restaurant scene in Nairobi, because not to criticize, but to just share an opportunity for improvement, your staff needs to know how the food tastes. And I find that a lot of restaurants have servers in which the server can't even advise you on the food because they've never tasted it. And the reason why this was done at Coco Sala was for that very reason. If you've never worked in a restaurant, you can't tell the difference between a busboy and a server, a hostess and a bartender. And so you would find that there were guests who would just pull a busboy, pull a hostess and say, can you tell me about this menu, etc. And we were very much versed, familiar with the menu. We got to eat from the menu on a regular basis, and we got to taste it before it was introduced to the public. The other thing that makes me a foodie, I'm not just somebody who likes to cook, but I also like to experiment. I like to try different recipes, and I'm very much about cooking from what I have in my kitchen. And that also helps me experiment. I don't watch cooking competitions, but I do watch cooking or food documentaries. One of my favorites is Street Food. They have them from around the world. And then there's High on the Hog. And I also subscribe to a channel that gives you the 411 behind the chemistry involved in cooking. And so I continue to learn. And I should also add that the two ways that I explore a city is through their fashion and through their food. That's basically like all I need outside of nature. Once I find out where the great boutiques are, the interesting boutiques are, the interesting dining experiences, I've pretty much explored a city. So I say all that to say I'm a foodie and you're in good hands. Now, this list right here that I'm giving you is based on 5 different qualities or categories. Taste, number 1, this list is based on taste. 2, consistency. Consistency is so important because you can go one place and it'd be great, and then you bring a friend back a month later and it'd be terrible. So we're also looking at consistency, ambiance, because even though we love a good hole in the wall, a little tasty, but we also love lighting. We also love decor. You know what I'm saying? We also love smell, right? We love to have a feast of the eyes as well. Customer service, I don't care where you go. If it's a hole in the wall, if it's fine dining, customer service, you feel like you're welcome, that's a huge part of it. And lastly, freshness, because there are a lot of places that taste good, like the Cheesecake Factory in the US, it tastes good, but we know that it's all prepackaged. So we're looking at freshness, all right? Now, for my Kenyans, y'all don't come for me, but nyama choma is not on the list. I don't have no nyama choma options on this list. And for those who are not Kenyan, nyama choma is basically barbecue or roasted meats. They're experts at it. And it's a staple within Kenyan cuisine. I don't have no nyama choma spots on here, mainly because I'm 98% vegetarian. That doesn't mean that I don't eat meat now. I try not to make food my religion, as in when I travel, I eat meat, as in when I go out with my friends and something looks tasty, I'll have a little bite of whatever, if it's fish, if it's meat. One of the reasons is because I do a fashion tour, and part of the fashion tour is food. We finish the tour with a farm-to-table restaurant. And so I like to be able to tell my guests what I recommend, what tastes good. And so I'll taste a little bit of my friends. And I have been to some nyama choma spots in Kenya. However, because I live in the Kilimani neighborhood, I'm really only familiar with what's over here, which will be a roadhouse. So if you're interested in barbecue meat, where you literally, there's the carcass hanging and you choose the part of the animal that you want, and 20-40 minutes later they bring the roasted meat to you. Roadhouse is a good spot within we'll just say on the west side, right? And then there's also Segret Hotel. I feel like that's a good, like, old school spot. Whenever I go over there, I see, like, older folks up in there enjoying. So nyama choma is not on the list. Don't come for me. And I also just want to put out there that Nairobi has a very diverse food scene in terms of cuisine and also in terms of ownership. So you'll find that there's lots of Wazungus, foreigners here, that have restaurants, that have eateries, cafes, etc. The other thing that I think is interesting is that East Africa in general, however, specifically Kenya, has a large Indian descendant population. Most of them will tell you, my people have been here for over 100 years. They consider themselves to be indigenous. I'm not here to argue politics. I'm just saying, I think they're considered the 45th tribe of Kenya. Um, Many of them are vegetarian. So there's lots of vegetarian options, and there's a lot of Indian influence within the cuisine, within Kenyan cuisine itself. Chapatis, bajias, those are just what I can name off the top of my head. A lot of the restaurants here have seasonal menus, which I love, which also indicates this farm to table freshness, which is so important to me. A lot of places don't advertise themselves as farm to table, but just given the supply chain in Kenya, most of what you will experience when you dine out, unless it's a chain, will be farm to table. The other thing that I would say is that dining out, particularly at a certain level, can be pricey. It can be very pricey. And sometimes I'm like, why is it so pricey? Given that labor is cheap and food costs are cheap, perhaps it's the cost of space, the cost of real estate, and maybe it's taxes. I don't know. Somebody can jump in the comments and let me know. And lastly, what I'll say is that if you're looking for Kenyan cuisine specifically, it's mostly veg. This is good news for vegetarians and vegans because most Africans and Asians are lactose intolerant. So there's not a whole lot, there's really no dairy in the food. However, we do find in East Africa that there's a lot of milk consumption. So I don't really I don't really know how that works. I have a girlfriend who's Luo and she's lactose intolerant, and her mom is just like, "What are you saying?" Like, I'm not understanding. We are Luo, you know? So um, I've spoken to quite a few Kenyans who told me that they grew up by default vegetarian because they only had meat like once a month or on holidays. So if you're veg, it's that's good news for you. Most of Kenyan cuisine is vegetarian. I would argue that there's not a whole lot of variety. You might find yourself eating the same things day after day, week after week, if you stay within Kenyan cuisine. Okay, now, moving on to the top 10. I should let you know that these are not in order of, best to worst because they're so different. It's like comparing beautiful sisters or cousins. Like they're just beautiful in their own way. There's no way that I could really list them. And also, they're at different levels from, fine dining to, very smaller, intimate restaurants. I actually have a Nairobi guide that I give to my consultation clients, which it's a live link. I'm constantly updating it because I'm constantly discovering new places. So if you don't know, I offer BLAXIT consultations. A lot of you have been reaching out to me because you've had it up to here and you've been ready to go. And I'm happy to help you. And just to show you that I am who I say I am and I do what I say I do, let me just read to you one of my consultation reviews. And this person says, the consultation was extremely thorough and the accompanying spreadsheet is of great value. All of my first round questions were answered, and some topics led to extended areas of discussion. So then when I asked, would you recommend or how would you improve this experience? This person said the consultation exceeded expectations. I would love to help you in your BLAXIT experience. Please reach out to me. I'm going to put a link in the description as well as the first comment will be pinned. First on my list is Cultiva. People that know me are like, Tadre, Cultiva is your favorite. You always talking about Cultiva. I really like Cultiva. Cultiva is Ecuadorian owned, and it's definitely a farm to table restaurant, and it's giving Asian Latin fusion. The farm is right behind the restaurant. While you're waiting on your food, you can take just a little wine through the farm. They used to have pigs there. They used to have chickens there. I don't know where they moved those, but it's good. And technically, it's not in Nairobi. It's actually in Karen. It's like right there. Um, for me, it takes me about 30 minutes to get there. Why do I love Cultiva so much? For just all the reasons that we're looking at these restaurants. Taste is on point. Consistency, it's always good. The ambiance, it's so beautiful in there. It's definitely my vibe. It's boho chic. There's lots of different sitting options. And the customer service is great. I'm always greeted with warmness, although I do have a friend that told me that she went there twice and was not treated well. She is a Kenyan woman. They definitely know that I am not Kenyan. So just putting that out there, I have to be fair. And freshness, the food is fresh. I already said, like, it's farm to table. They have a seasonal menu. Now, that could get on your nerves because something that you like might really love could be going next month. I love that they have a pastry option. I love that they have a fresh gelato option. It's good vibes up in there. Cave à manger. Forgive this American accent. My friends are like, Tatra, you are so American. They had to teach me how to pronounce it. It's spelled cave a manger, but I believe it's pronounced cave à manger. And this place, I believe, is Australian owned. And their cuisine, I would say, is continental. There's lots of veg options. The same with Cultiva. There's lots of veg options. The and I love the rooms. It's like they have like a wine area. They have a lounge area. There's indoor seating. There's outdoor seating. And it's beautiful in there. There's lots of greenery in there. What do I really like about the place? For the most part, it's consistent. The food tastes really good, and they're experimental with their menu. So on the menu, you'll have the food items, and then you'll have the wine pairings. Technically, not technically, but in actuality, they are also located in Karen. But like I said, it's so close to Nairobi. Next on the list is Ate, spelled 8 with an accent over the E, I believe. This one is located in Nairobi. Every time. It doesn't matter when I go, how many people I bring. The food is always really good, and it's so beautiful. And there's several different sitting options in terms of vibes. It's 2 levels. You can have garden seating, you can have indoor seating. They're very experimental with their menu, and it's just a feast. I love the plateware. It's a wonderful place. The customer service is amazing. It's also very fresh, and they also have a seasonal menu as well. Next on the list, number 4, is Hob House. Hob House is owned by a Lebanese woman who I believe is of British descent. It's primarily garden seating. So what you'll find in terms of bars, restaurants, lounges, is that there's a lot of garden seating or semi-garden areas. And I just love that. The food is very good at Hob House, and there's tons of vegetarian options at Hob House. The customer service is great. The food is fresh. The ambiance, like you're literally in a garden. Hob House also has like a bed and breakfast option. There's also a little boutique in there. It's good vibes. Next on the list is Goco. Now, Goco is within the Tribe Hotel. Goco, I discovered it because I went there for a fashion show and they were serving up hors d'oeuvres. The hors d'oeuvres were very tasty. I came back, really liked it, started bringing my fashion tour guests there, and I can say that they have live music sometimes. The art there is amazing. They seem to be really vested in the dining experience. They want you to be happy. The food is good. Of course, because I'm veg, there's lots of vegetarian options, but of course, lots of meat options as well. Great for omnivores. And what else can I say about Goco? The flavor profiles are rich. The servings are plentiful, like it's lots. Now, I'm going to go to one of my local favorites. You should know that in Nairobi, there's lots of habeshas. meaning Habesha, as I understand it to be, is like an ethnic group that is in Eritrea as well as Ethiopia. So there's lots of Habesha, Ethiopian, Eritrean restaurants, eateries, cafes in Nairobi. Howsoever, they're not all on the same level. And one of the ways that I rate, let's call it, for lack of a better term, an ethnic restaurant, is do the people of that place, do they eat there? And Queen of Sheba is one of those places where you're more likely to find Habeshas, you're more likely to find Ethiopians than you are to find foreigners like myself. It's a local spot. They just did renovations not too long ago, so the ambiance has gone up quite a few ticks, and the food is just fresh. All right, last night we went there and we got like a mixed platter with meat and veggies. I usually get the veggie platter. I want to say this to Americans specifically. It wasn't until I came to East Africa that I realized that the Ethiopian cuisine that I had consumed in the States, I don't know what it is. Like, are they unable to get all the ingredients in the States? I don't know. But here in East Africa, it's on a whole nother level. So if you're one of those people that's like, Ethiopian food, that's like baby food to me. I've heard that so much and I feel you. Here, try it here. Try it here. The way it's served, the incense, the customer care, like it's on a whole nother level. So my favorite spot here is Queen of Sheba. It's a little spot. You might say it's a little hole in the wall. It was, but it's gone up a few notches. And what else would I say about it? They have tej, which is honey wine, Ethiopian honey wine. Okay, and the injera is hot, not hot, but warm. It's warm. All the injera that I've had in the U.S. has been cold. It's not supposed to be cold. All right, they have brown injera, they have white injera, and this particular place that I go to, they actually make the injera for the surrounding restaurants. And just as an aside, for those of you that have a little bit of hair, all right, whether it's natural or otherwise, this Queen of Sheba restaurant is located on a compound that has another Ethiopian restaurant, a South Sudanese coffee shop, and an Ethiopian hair salon. So I would go there and get the traditional Ethiopian wedding looks, where they have the braid coming down and the tiny cornrows going back and then the hair extensions coming out, like just beautiful. And while you're there, they'll bring you the coffee prepared fresh, that Ethiopian way with the incense. They'll bring you food. It's a whole vibe. It's at Metropolitan Court off of Arguings in Hurlingham. I suggest you check it out. Moving on to Dragon Eye. There's a lot of, I won't say a lot, there's quite a few seafood restaurants in Nairobi. They are good. I like Dragon Eye. Dragon Eye is owned by third generation Hong Kongers. Is that the name? Is that what you call people from Hong Kong? Who would have thunk it? Third generation of people from Hong Kong. So they serve Hong Kong street food. They don't have many vegetarian options, but before I became veg, I was there often. Dragon Eye has mostly seafood, and it's done so well, like in a way that I've never had it before. And one of the things that really sealed the deal for me is that I saw the family eating the food that they cooked for me. Basically, what am I trying to say? It's a family-owned restaurant. The restaurant is located in a place that you wouldn't think to find a restaurant. It's kind of like a small office building, and they have the kitchen and then they have the dining area. So you'll see the family preparing the food. They bring the food out to you. Depending on the time of day, you'll then see the family take the food and sit down at the table near the kitchen and have dinner or lunch amongst themselves. That's how you know it's legit. That's how you know it's real. And they're very much into making sure that you are pleased. It's fresh, it's delicious. So if you like seafood and you like a quaint environment, Dragon Eye. Definitely Dragon Eye. Next on the list is Crafty Chameleon. Crafty Chameleon is located in Lavington, and technically it is a micro brewery, so they brew their own beer, and they also have a very extensive menu. All of the seating is, no, there is some indoor. So there's indoor seating and then there's outdoor seating. Most people dine in the garden. It is very multi-generational. It's almost always packed. The service is good and there's lots of veg options. The food is just tasty. It's consistent. It's a good look. Now, next on the list is Hero. Hero is a favorite. It's at the top of, what's the name of that hotel? Trademark Hotel, which is basically on the same lot as the Village Market and Tribe Hotel. They have a pool because it's at the top of Trademark Hotel. So you can sit on the pool side, you can sit on the restaurant side, and they're known to be one of the best bars in the world. Sometimes they have a DJ. They're known for their sushi, and they give you like a little comic book menu. I love it. It's totally a vibe if you like sushi. And oh, I almost forgot about the view. The view of the city is just spectacular. Number 10, I have to mention this one. I found this one a few months ago, and it's called Five Senses. I love it because it's fine dining. I don't often do fine dining, and it's also Kenyan owned. You may find that in the restaurant space, especially at the level of fine dining, you may find it difficult to find Kenyan owned restaurants. This place is Kenyan owned, and the food is good. I love how they obviously put so much energy into the decor and the training. And they do have a few veggie options. And I love how they have such attention to detail. Did I say the food was very tasty? It is. And I would also say that for fine dining, it is well priced. It's relatively affordable. Now, I got to throw in a bonus, okay? I have to throw in this bonus. They are newly opened, and it's Azteca. Now, if you love Mexican, perhaps you live here and you're missing Mexican, like myself. I was missing Mexican. Azteca is in Runda. It's at the new Runda Mall. Let me just give you the 411 on it and why I like it and why I will continue to keep going there. I do bypass Mexican restaurants in Westlands on my way to this one. I find Azteca to be the best Mexican that I've ever had in East Africa, hands down. It is co-owned by a Mexican man and a Kenyan woman. They are a married couple. They have 4 young adult children together. This Kenyan co-owner, she lived for 2 years in Mexico. She told me that she learned from the aunties and the grandmothers in Oaxaca. And because of how corn is milled here, it's difficult to make tortillas. The tortillas don't really bind. So she grows her own corn. She mills her own corn. The nopal, which is the cactus, she grows it herself. And I love that personal experience that you get when you go in there. The owners come over to talk to you. They aim to please. We went there. Did we go there on Christmas Eve? They had a special prefix menu that was like 7,000. I was like, you know what, we're gonna have to leave because I brought someone here from out of town and we just really wanted tacos. And they were serving like a beef Wellington and all of this. And she was like, no, you want tacos? I'm gonna give you tacos. And she went in the kitchen and she whipped up them tacos for us. We had tostadas. And the drinks, I don't normally drink, but I had this pineapple jalapeno margarita. Had 2 of them. Very, very good. So I would recommend Azteca for Mexican. So beautiful people, that is it for my list of top 10 restaurants in Nairobi. Thank you for joining me on this episode of BLAXIT to Africa. If you like what you heard, please share, subscribe, and leave a comment. May you thrive. May you be inspired. May you move with love and intention. Until next time.